Respect that. You come in here right at 7 o'clock, you're ready to get right to business.
I apologize. I had to have a meeting in Philly overnight that I just got out at 3:30, so you know how 676 is, so.
Oh, yeah.
We have a quorum.
You do.
I'll call the meeting to order. We will start with public comment discussing the use of land at the corner at Church and Stony Battery. So I would open it up to public comment first, or
If you wouldn't mind, I did present just kind of a quick synopsis, and then you could probably open it up for comments and questions.
okay,
So the Rec Authority was created in 2019 by the Board of Supervisors, and they were given control of the 126-acre golf course for the purpose of making Four Seasons golf property profitable. Let me share my screen here. I do have a graph that indicates where the financials have been and where they're headed, which the top graph, the top bar there, the red one, is expenses. Starting in 1989, when the golf course was purchased, and we kind of grouped them together to be condensed, and then we dropped it there at 2012, which is when the mortgage was paid off. And then projecting it out to 2022. Same way with the blue line, which is revenues. Revenues are pretty consistent from 89 to 2020. And then as you see, the revenues have started to climb to exceed expenses, which is what we want to happen. And then the line below that, the black one, is the township subsidy. So in the early years, it was the mortgage. And then since that, since 2012, the township has been supplementing the golf course to cover expenses. So starting in actually 22, we have flipped those lines, and now our revenues are higher than our expenses, but not by a significant number. We're definitely going in the right direction in this. And that really has to do with moving creating the authority, having them sublease the banquet facilities and the snack bar to Blue Collar, and having them open a restaurant. So we have a lease revenue coming in. So, Blue Collar took over in 21. Their business is growing. But the authority, as I said, we want that blue line to continue to gain some distance from the red, and we need another or some more revenue stream to keep the golf operations in the black. And that's kind of why we're here tonight, to see what the public has in terms of input, in terms of what we might want to use the corner property for, which is the corner of Church Street and Stony Battery. The idea for creating this additional revenue stream started with the Board of Supervisors. They created the authority. The authority has been looking at plot plans and diagrams, and the common thread throughout that is it's probably going to be commercial. The use that is out there, but there's also a strong feeling that whatever that use is needs to be complementary to the golf course operations. The current zoning on the property is recreation open space that covers the 126 acres. And that by definition does not allow commercial. So we're looking at a rezoning that corner property, and we're looking for input from the community. The community business center, I can show you. Bear with me here as I flip these around. No, this one. So this is what, after several renditions and several discussions and several things, going on with this property as well as the property at Knowlton Church. There's 50 acres there, which are not in the control of the authority, but there have been numerous plot plans. This is the plan that we were looking at to potentially rezone that corner piece. Now, what's depicted on there is a convenience store as well as a potential office building. These are just conceptual. These are just placements of buildings to give us an idea what might fit. But what we're proposing to do is change that zoning to community business center, which will allow for commercial.
And if I can just go back for those who may not have been on the rec authority journey as the members on the board have been, there's a line item on there on the graph where it says 2021 blue collar started. We had several years worth of proposals and different ideas that got us to blue collar. There was a lot of individuals that came with ideas that we went through that never got to the planning process. And what is in front of us now, as far as the rendition of how to use the two lots in front, that was actually the first meeting that we took as a rec authority, was a business or a developer that was looking to do that first. And just a little bit of history, again, going back, was we looked internally at the operations, the banquet, and really started there as far as how we can better the property before we actually go into any sort of land development. And that over years was what then happened with blue collar. And we feel from a rec authority standpoint, from the golf course operations, that it has been a good fit because of the due diligence that we went through throughout the 2.5-year process before blue collar ever served their first customer. So just to give everybody a little bit of background, that this isn't something that we look at as far as what's going to give us the most money from a rec authority standpoint without looking at planning future and what the due diligence process is for our board. So I will open it up to public comment. If there's questions, concerns, anything that anybody wants to discuss, that's why we wanted to open this up to the public to begin our discussion tonight. So please, or virtually, if there's anybody virtually.
I'm not sure I understand what you're proposing. The lot one, you're proposing what, an office building? What is lot one supposed to be indicating?
That's what we're looking at right now. We have some ideas, but we also want to hear what the public has to say. There's nothing earmarked for lot number one, nor is there anything earmarked for lot number two at this time.
Yes, Susan, these are just simply examples to give you an idea of space and the two lots or the area that we're looking to rezone to give us the ability to figure out what we want to put here.
If anything, we haven't decided that we're actually going to do anything. We just wanted to explore the idea, which is why we're asking for public comment.
And these are the best drawings that we have at this current time. So when you see a huge parking lot in lot number one, that's not there. There's no plans to do that at this time. It's just a placeholder.
My name's Kyle.
Is the
For the
cur-
record. Go ahead.
Is the current entrance off of Church Street the entrance that's shown on this map?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Really, because the parking doesn't look the same as on the golf course plan now.
As we said, this is just conceptual. So the current access point on Church Street is still shown. That could or could not change. But there's also an access on Stony Battery that is shown, could or could not be there. Just conceptual. What you really want to focus on is that we'd like to rezone that red line, that red box, from park and recreation to commercial business center, which would allow a commercial use. What that might be is still up for discussion.
Kyle, why don't you go ahead?
So I'm fortunate enough, I live on Indian Springs and my backyard butts up to the 17th tee box of Four Seasons. I've seen tremendous growth over the last 5 years. Jim does a really great job and his staff there. Got the golf there on Saturday. Some things that I was just throwing out or thinking of, it would be nice when I was growing up, I can remember a time where there was a miniature golf course. And at the time, even looking back at it as young as I was, it was a pretty simple miniature golf course. Now I know Hempfield Township, they have put overlooked in, and they have a really nice golf course, has a great ice cream parlor. You can do a lot of things over that way. They have a little bit more room, I get it. Something that I would throw out there is possibly having a much better miniature golf course within our ice cream parlor. I know Scoops may be a rival or whatever, but it would be something that is close to a neighborhood development, much, even to the community, really, having the rec center there, host events. By trade, went to school as a RPTM minor. So some of that stuff as recreation as it can be is nice to have. The other thing, some of these buildings are vacant or not being used in storage. Looking at it, it's on a golf course. When I think golf course, I think events, obviously. They host a lot of events. Your tournaments at the golf course. I would be interested to see if we could do maybe a projection about having an event venue, kind of renovate some of the space and renovate some of it, have weddings, maybe even have, you can have a space for the community to have a night out or family reunions, things of that nature to use. You may have to hire an event planner, possibly down the line there, but I would like to see some of the space used, get a return on investment, so to speak. Commercial, you could put a sign there, you could sell space for advertising. I know the Hempfield Black Knights use that golf course as their home for their meets, if I'm not mistaken. You could put home of the Black Knights there. You could sell some advertisement. I know Penn State Health has been throwing money around since coming to the area. So I think some of these could be really used for events, put an amateur golf course down with an ice cream parlor. Been to Blue Collar a lot, really like the food, great atmosphere. It's a place now where my buddies and I can go and grab dinner, drinks, after our round. So I think Four Seasons has really grown a lot, and I really think there's room there in that building and everything like that to expand and continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kyle,
Thank you, Kyle.
would it be safe to say that you would prefer that we you'd better utilize the existing structures before we venture into the corner property? Or you don't mind having something in the corner?
I'm looking at it as a revenue generator, obviously that graph that you showed. If you can use the space that you have now and renovate it for, and make it, look nice, or make it, especially if you're going to use it for an event wedding, there's going to be pictures and everything like that. People like that. I know my generation, and sad to say, they don't belong to a church. So I've been to numerous of my friends' weddings that are at these venues that, aren't at churches. And they have them as a banquet. They have them as, I'm a member of the Penn State Lancaster chapter, and we're always looking for events and things like that. So it's just reaching out and kind of networking in the community as well. I would try to use the space as is. I understand there's codes and buildings and things of that nature, but if you would have to if you'd have to, either tear it down or rebuild, then you might want to look at something either smaller or you can, it might be cheaper that way too. But it's definitely something to keep in mind if you can get somebody in there to renovate it and just kind of change the course of it a little bit. I think this generation, my generation, that's what we kind of enjoy right now. Something that was old and made new, things of that nature.
I do want to just so blue collar leases the restaurant and the old banquet space.
Okay.
So if you're ever looking to do an event, I would certainly direct you to blue collar for any event that you're interested in hosting or planning, because they do all the event planning at the property, golf, weddings, anything they have the whole event space. It's utilized for whatever they book. It's not vacant. They're using that. So we, as a rec authority, no longer have an individual that plans events. We lease that to blue collar and they, have run with it from there. So
Okay.
I would definitely go to them and ask them if you want to use that.
I think they have an event coordinator. Like if you wanted to do a wedding there, you would run it through them and they would have it all set up. And
So right there, they would have it. So. All right.
so, I mean, they are doing some of it. I mean, obviously, yes, some of it needs to be updated and I think they're slowly getting there with some of that stuff. But
Have space in the structure that's underutilized, and the rec authority has looked at that and thought that's an opportunity. Even the barn, the top of the barn,
Yep.
it's an opportunity, but it's expensive to renovate that space.
And that's what it all comes down to, is where you're going to get the best return of,
we're trying to keep the graph going in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Without trying to spend
Not
more
to-
money, but
not to-
it's a
yeah,
tough task.
You don't- You
Just-
gotta weigh your pros and cons, obviously.
I don't want to scare you with this sketch or plot plan, but this was done in 2017.
Okay.
And this actually shows a mini golf up here in the corner.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many renditions that have gone down, nothing stuck. We're just kind of exploring the space. But that's just one of the things that I think in another rendition, that space is actually a community garden area.
Yeah. And my thought is just something that we can do as a community, and it brings, obviously more money into the golf course and the township, to continue to make that graph go the way that it's going. And it. Can you go back to that other one there?
Yep. Too far, too close?
Nope. I'm just trying to. So this is the driving range on my.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah.
I'm not being smart here, and that driving range doesn't provide anything. There's no return on investment there at all. There's no revenue. I'm still going to leisure lanes to hit a couple golf balls at night. It's great.
No offense taken. That makes it unanimous.
Yeah. It would be great if we could get golf balls in there and a change machine where people got to stick money in and stuff like that. But it's also dangerous, because if 2 or 3 of us are there and we have to wait, it's almost like going to a shooting range and waiting till the guy is done shooting so you can go get your target and come back. So it's one of those things where I really like it. It's nice, but it's not being utilized like it should. So I'm just trying to think of, like a golf course you would pay money to go to, you'd have ice cream after and, whatever. But yeah, I'm just trying to think, again, money wise, what would make the most sense for the township to do to get money coming in?
We've looked at a lot of options for that driving range, a top. would cost significant amount of money.
Absolutely.
Flight restricted balls would not be player friendly. So right now we've decided to not really touch it until we have a better option for that space.
Absolutely. And I mean, like I said, they've just moved, they're making great changes to the golf course. They've built a tee box back a little bit. They've moved a couple of them. Trees are coming down, bunkers are being filled in and going to be moved. I understand. The Four Seasons golf course, if you had told me 10 years ago it would look the way it does today, I would have told you you're crazy. No way. So I'd really like to see it continue to grow. I'd like to see the space utilized, but maybe again, I think the best one that we had, and you showed it on that chart, on that other graph, was, maybe putting a miniature golf in again and trying it again, and having that ice cream parlor would be, some use of space that you could get money driven in revenue.
So Joe and Jim have done a great job with the golf course management and the course management. And I think the one thing that we're trying to do is give them more ammunition by having more revenue that they can use for things like mowers, staff, facility, things like that. So that's the whole reason why we're here.
Absolutely. And we're working on the same page there. So that's good to hear.
Kyle, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Cindy, do they have to sign in first or?
Yeah, if you could sign in before you speak, so we have your name, and thank you. Keeps the minutes straight. Thank you.
I'm Gary Brown. We live in Indian Springs development right on the end there. And we're members of the Hempfield Rec. I walk over there plenty of times. And I think one of the challenges I see is the accommodation for pedestrians and bicyclists. We seem to be building a township where we can't get anywhere without our cars. Walking along Stony Battery can be dangerous. We've expanded the intersection there at Church Street and Stony Battery. That intersection is so wide. Walking across there, it's fearful. There's a crosswalk. I never cross there. I walk up towards Blue Collar and I cross the street where it's more narrow. So now we're paving in more green space in the township to put in those parking lots and more buildings where we have green space, which is becoming less and less in Hempfield Township. That's my concern. And then you're creating another intersection for me to walk across, which is as wide as the intersection at Church Street. Good luck getting a bicycle across there.
Gary, I think the thing that we were trying to do was to show you plans that have been advanced prior to us getting involved. And some of these had been submitted by developers and that, and brought. So this is just really letting you know what had been advanced as ideas. And before we went in any of these directions, we really wanted to try to find out exactly what we're doing here tonight with your input about, being more pedestrian friendly, Kyle's input about uses, really looking to the neighbors in the community to kind of give input to how this asset that's important to this immediate area and to the community, could be best used, from a land and a building asset.
Let's not forget about the pedestrians. We always try to accommodate the traffic, and then we complain when people drive too fast. Well, we can't walk anywhere. We physically have to get in our cars to drive someplace. Most folks that live in Indian Springs, if they go to the rec center, they'll get in their car and they'll drive over. It's too dangerous to cross the street, and Stony Battery has no berm for you to run or walk. I'm also a runner, so I run those roads. Same thing. I'm not against development. I'm not against generating revenue. In fact, I'm in finance and accounting myself. So I fully understand. I'd hate to see us pave over more green space. We're gonna be left with nothing but parking lot, unfortunately. And then you got to deal with runoff issues too. I'd love to see a park. Put in some trees. In the neighborhood, just beyond this, there's a piece of property that the water company owns for Hempfield Township. But instead of it being a park, it has big signs, no dogs allowed, no trespassing. East Hempfield Township Water Authority. Why we could be putting in trees. We could have picnic tables there for the neighborhood. But instead, 30 years, it's sitting there and they mow the grass. Which has nothing to do with this property, but it's. the
Yeah,
same.
unfortunately, we don't control that side over there.
My concern is pedestrians. You know, we want to walk, we want to be healthier, but we keep boxing ourselves in and making us drive. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone on Zoom at the moment that would like to speak? Now would be your time.
Well, I'm not sure that I have, this is Sue McMullen. And I too am a resident of the Indian Springs development. I'm in the middle of the development, not right along the golf course. And he's right. I do take my car to go to Hempfield Rec. And I take my car to go to the golf course. I'm not a huge fan of having another entrance to the property off of Stony Battery Road. There's just, it's getting difficult to get out onto Stony Battery Road as it is. And just another entrance and exit isn't going to help that, I don't think. I'm more concerned with continuing to grow the golf course business. And this has nothing to do with developing the corner of the property. But I'm concerned that you may begin to lose some players at the golf course because of the fact, and one of the reasons that I came to this or I'm attending this meeting is to find out what insurance costs you have saved by not allowing carts to get your golf bag into the cart in the parking lot itself. Has there been a cost savings to the insurance or any other way to justify that change that's been made this year?
I don't know. Jim can speak to this better than I can because he's the one that made the decision, because he's based that decision on very close calls in the parking lot. It wasn't based on cost savings to the insurance coverage. And of course, if there's an incident in the parking lot, which there hasn't, well, I guess there's been some minor ones, but if there's a major incident in the parking lot between a cart and a vehicle, our insurance carrier, of course, will raise rates. But for savings, no.
Okay, so there's no savings at present. But if you lose players, I have heard, for instance, I know in the ladies league, I have heard we have a very small ladies league of the 18-hole ladies league right now. That's for a number of reasons, but we have a very large 9-hole ladies league right now. And I've heard from several of those ladies who are unhappy with having to either drag their bag around the clubhouse to get a cart or have to bring the cart out and there's no place to turn the cart around. And it's really, I don't carry my bag. It's too heavy. There's a reason why I'm a full member there, with a cart membership. And that's because I don't want to carry my clubs. I want to take them out of the back trunk of my car and put them right on the cart. And I think I know enough to park close enough to my car to do that without damaging anybody else's car. I think you're going to lose some players over that eventually. Maybe not this year, but I think you will.
I think there's some long-term ideas, concept that Jim is working on in terms of a possible drop-off for the carts or for the bags. Of course, those changes take dollars. But I think it's something that he's been thinking about as he put these new rules into place.
Susan, anything else?
Well, I'm just not sure why we are rushing to change zoning if you don't have a plan or a concept or anybody who's interested in those plots at this point. Shouldn't we leave it as it is in recreational open space?
The idea behind having the zoning conversation first had gone back and forth about either getting interest first and then bringing that to the zoning board or the board of supervisors or vice versa. And the reason why we wanted to talk about zoning first was first get public comment, public opinion about what we wanted to do there before we did anything. Because if we as a board looked at it from a standpoint of what's going to be most beneficial to the golf course and to the township, that's going to be relying strictly on what's going to bring in the most revenue. If we had more public comment about the way that we wanted to zone that or use that property, that might not necessarily be a revenue discussion. That might be more of a, what do we want to do there? So we didn't want to necessarily go with an idea from a developer or anything like that as the first decision that we made. It was more zoning to open up to more ideas, whether that was commercial or still, something along the lines of a park or something else. So
Yeah, this is just more of a timeline thing for us. It's more attractive when the space is available for what somebody would want to put there. Whereas if it's not available for anything other than rec, it delays all the processes and nobody's going to be as interested, or we might not get as much revenue. So this is just more of, we can get it rezoned. And if it does, we can still put a park there. It doesn't mean that we can't put a park there. It's just allowing us to go out and find the best options available.
And we also wanted to make sure we didn't come off as being heavy-handed, that we'd already made a decision. And then we were going to ask what you thought. And then if we didn't go along with the public opinion, you would think that it was already a done deal. And I don't think that benefits the township and its citizens at all.
Okay, well then I will say that as far as if you're really seeking public input, this meeting was very poorly advertised. The agenda is never up until a few hours before the meeting takes place. I seldom even see minutes of the preceding meeting. I haven't seen the meetings for the preceding meeting, the minutes for the preceding meeting yet. Because you don't approve them until the next meeting. I assume that that's why they're not posted on the township board.
And one of the reasons why we are going to have the same discussion at our next meeting as well. It's not
Okay.
just this one meeting.
We need to publicize it more fully around the township and the golf course so that you get more public input, or you're going to get just a few of us.
Well, we have it posted in the pro shop. We posted it on Nextdoor. We posted it on Facebook. And we actually did mailings to about 15 of the property owners in Indian Springs.
As well as on the township
township
A
website.
website, yes.
I mean, we covered a lot of bases, I thought.
It was on the.
That's right. I
township
did ask
website.
Mr. Book to post at the rec center.
Whose post?
The letter that was signed by you, don't you remember?
Oh. Didn't post anything on
It came-
Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, it came under Ryan's name, yes.
Are there any other comments that anyone online would like to share?
Well, thank you everyone for your comments. And if you have additional comments, as I said, we will have another discussion at our next meeting, which is
July 27th.
about a month from today, but yeah. Yeah, July 27th.
Yeah, so if you think of anything or you're talking to anybody in the next month of ideas, I mean, we've obviously talked a lot about different things that we can, approach and do, but the more people that chime in, gives us more options to at least go out there and look and see what's available.
All right. So moving on to our next agenda item, the standing committee reports, lease negotiating and real estate committee. Does Cindy, do you want to give an update from Blue Collar about their event or?
So they are actually experiencing their first year anniversary in the month of July. They had originally planned for a celebration to be held in that area in the front of the corner. And they kind of started planning a little late. So what they're going to do is now do it in October. And they've selected so far 2 dates. They haven't narrowed that down yet. This just really noticed to tell you that it's kind of pushed to October.
Anything else from the lease and real estate committee?
Yeah, I can report that Dan and Steve and I are going to meet with Blue Collar tomorrow here at the golf course to talk about some plans and ideas they have for outdoor dining. So we're going to get together with them and then report back to the board.
Any questions, comments?
Can I ask a question about the blue collar lease? I thought originally when I attended meetings and the lease was under discussion back before the lease was signed.
I'm sorry, Susan, I'd have to ask that you wait for the public comment section of our agenda to ask a question about. We have to go through our agenda first and then we open it up to public comment. So if there's nothing further from the board, from lease and real estate committee, I will move on to the finance and operations committee report, which I don't know that we've had a.
You haven't had a meeting, but there's been some work being done by staff and the attorney. There's a draft that I'm ready to give to back to the attorney that has my final comments on it. And that at that point, you should see this final draft at your July meeting to move that forward.
To which approved to go to Board of Supervisors
I'm
for
sorry.
there, so we would approve it.
You
and
would
then-
approve it and then it would go to the Board of Supervisors, yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments about the Finance and Operations Committee? So we don't really have much substance there. Currently don't have any action items.
And just backing up 1 degree, since we do have some public here, the agreement we're referring to is the goal of the rec authority and the board of supervisors is to create a separation. And so that right now the rec authority does not have a bank account. They don't have control of any of the assets at the golf course. So this agreement that we're working on basically does that, assigns the assets from the board of supervisors to the rec authority. And then the rec authority will start processing bills and paying bills and being more involved in the day-to-day.
Goals and objectives for the golf course. As far as old business, I don't have anything to add there. If anybody else from the committee has anything to discuss or
Like I said, I think the.
Oh,
big-
that's, you got,
Yep.
we'll wait until we get to
The
that.
biggest goal and objective is always keep one line moving one way and the other line moving the other way.
Jim, if you are there and can hear us, are you able to give a golf operations update?
Yes, we had another good month. We stayed right in line with what we did last year, so we're continuing to save on the expense side. And really no update besides that. Continue to move that line in the right direction.
Good feedback on the new carts.
Yes, good feedback on the carts. And for the most part, people are understanding the restriction with the carts not going to the parking lot due to safety concerns.
I had a few people approach me on the side just about the time that the carts have to be returned by. Is it 8 o'clock or is it 7 o'clock that they have to be back to the?
Right now, it's 8 o'clock. That gives us time to clean them and get out of there before dark.
Okay.
Jim, was there any correlation between the new carts arriving and that rule going in place?
No.
Okay. Anybody from the committee have questions for Jim? All right, simulators. I will ask Steve. I saw your email. I wasn't able to take a look at it, but.
That's okay. One of the things that the authority's been talking about is perhaps the consideration of adding golf simulators to the area by the barn, inside the barn, for use all year round, but certainly during the winter months. We've taken an initial look at, return on investment and the like, and we received some pricing from the folks at TrackMan, which populate a lot of simulators around the country. We are looking to do a simulator. You're looking in the neighborhood of between $22,000 and $30,000
For one.
for one. Yes. We discussed, we've just briefly discussed the idea of having this, what it would cost, what we would charge per hour, what kind of use we might get out of it. And the authority feels that it is a good idea, but we needed to get some more information in terms of the pricing. And then as we look at the space, how it would all fit and whether or not we think it would be a good allocation. So right now, this was provided to me earlier today. I think it's going to take some time for us to look and see exactly what we would want. And then if we want to do one, do we want to do two? What kind of amenities might we have? We're going to have furniture, you're going to have ability to access blue collar, et cetera, et cetera. So there are still a lot of things to work out, I think, but we do have some raw numbers here to work with.
And I think we discussed, instead of going to a contractor, if we wanted to have some sort of space above the barn completed for a simulator room, that we could do that with like township individuals that would be able to do that.
It's possible that we could at least rough it in for sure.
Okay,
Then we'd have to get contractors in to do the electrical and the HVAC stuff.
okay.
And they could probably even do some drywall or get it drywalled and then painted. But yes, there's a possibility of doing some, using public works, particularly over the winter months. If there's no snow, they love projects.
Okay. Just a little bit of information. We looked at this a couple of years ago before blue collar was ever in there. And we had someone come and present to the board about doing several simulators above the barn. At the same time, we were looking at another restaurateur that was going to take over the banquet business. That fell through. So the viability of his business and the simulator side without a food and beverage aspect dissolved or died on the vine. So we're now trying to revisit that as a potential idea for additional revenue for the property. We just didn't know what the financials look like as far as what the technology costs, what the space would cost. And then, you know, if that's something that Jim would want to run, or if we would look to Blue Collar to manage that. So just a little bit of background on that. So,
So I think we still have some answers we need to figure out ourselves. If we wanted to have TrackMan come in and build it themselves, it's $50,000-$60,000. And they're talking about, they're taking bookings right now in September. So if we'd even kick it back one more month, we're in October. And if we want to have something going, let's say by the end of the golf season, start looking at November, we'll need to move probably sometime over the next 30 to 45 days.
gotcha. Any questions from the board for Steve in general, simulators?
Steve, I just had a question. You said $50,000 for them to come in and
The email I received from their regional manager said their turnkey solutions are between $50,000 to $60,000. Priceless attached, while full do-it-yourself solution could be done closer to 35 to 45, depending on materials. So the numbers I gave earlier were just the simulator.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think those numbers don't include whatever the monthly like subscription would be. Isn't there like a monthly subscription that to keep the courses updated, to do this, to do
I think
that?
that's a year, it might be
Or
a
an
year. I
annual
think it's,
thing,
I
yeah.
think it's an annual thing. Yeah. So I think we'll have to take a look at all the pricing and say, okay, exactly
Mhm.
what would we want? And then what do we need to accommodate all
What
that?
what do you think you can squeeze out of that?
Right.
Okay. Is there any new business? All right. Minutes from the previous meeting, May 25th. Did anybody have any questions, comments about the minutes? I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes from May 25th.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Sorry, who was the second?
Mike,
Mike.
is there any public comment?
Yeah, thank you for being patient, Susan.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question. I thought that originally in the contract with Blue Collar, they were going to be open the hours that the golf course was open, at least open the hours the golf course was open. Am I wrong about that?
You're not wrong. We've talked with Blue Collar a few times. And I think I would hope that you have to agree a little bit. One, staffing has been a problem for every restaurant. So right now, I mean, they're trying to do a good job as far as getting it opened in the morning, but they just don't have the ability or staff to be open at 6:30 in the morning for that first tee time. I mean, I think in the future, hopefully things will change and staffing isn't an issue, and we're not talking about that every day, but I think the goal would be to try and get that open earlier so that it can, pick up those earlier golfers. So yeah, we've had some questions about it. We've talked to Blue Collar about it, and it's just, there's just nobody to do it. So they're doing the best that they can right now, and then we appreciate that as well. And I think Jim's trying to offset it a little bit with having some items available in the pro shop when the snack stand is not open. So that's kind of where we're at there, but you're not wrong. The goal and the full intention was to, have that place open during the golfing hours. It's just, it's been difficult right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know people bring their own coffee. They stop at Turkey Hill. There's all kinds of people who are prepared to bring their own coffee because they know no place is going to be open at the golf course. Yes, I know there's a little coffee machine in the pro shop. But that's not, and they're not really opening the snack bar at all until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. So on days when there's leagues, ladies leagues, the 9-hole ladies sometimes are finished by then and gone. before they get any business from them. It's just, yeah, I understand the staffing issues. That's true with any restaurant right now, but it'd be good to have a little bit more opening there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Well, thank you for those that attended. If there's nothing further, I would move to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Dave, how you
Thank you.
feeling?
I was gonna say, Dave, how are you
Yeah, how you
doing?
feeling, Dave?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just
You look
getting
good.
stir crazy from being at my house for 3 more days, but everything's fine. Very mild symptoms.
Good. Okay.
So thanks for asking, guys.
We miss you here.
I really wanted to be there, but there
Thank you
are
folks for
rules.
coming.
So anyway, I'll see you next month for sure. Take care, everybody.
But
See
you
ya.
too, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.